Welcome back to Season 3 of the podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Blackwood. As many of you know, I wrote my autobiography as a survivor of human trafficking called Custom Justice. But if you didn't know, you do now. Keeping in line with that, this entire season has been focused on interviewing people who did or plan to write about their own experiences as trauma survivors and how they overcame their past. If that sounds like you, reach out. We can talk about having you on the show, too. As much as we all hate commercials, they are a necessary evil these days. This is what keeps the show on the air. You can also show support by purchasing one of my mini books or donating through PayPal. You can find the links to either option in the podcast description. As always, a portion of the proceeds do go to local organizations that help fight human trafficking. Welcome back to the podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Amanda Blackwood, and I have a special treat for you guys today. I have ECHO, which is a group of women. ECHO stands for Empowering Conversations of Hope and Opportunity. How perfect is that for this specific podcast? Making up the members of ECHO, we have Lisa Jones, Michaela S. Cox, Debbie Wimberly, and Amy Weishaus. These women are amazing, and I can't wait for you guys to get to know them. I'm going to get to know them. So, ladies, welcome to the episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I am so excited to get to know you guys. Just your message, what it is that you're doing. This is important stuff. More people need to hear about you guys. So, normally I ask people where they originally grew up, but I want to ask, how did you guys all meet?
You want to take that, Debbie?
Sure. We all met through a cohort of learning to become public speakers, and we got put into just a group, and we found that our messages gelled together very well. And so one day I just said, you know what, we need to become our own stage and provide talks, because what we can do with it and help provide the world with hope and opportunity is really cool with all of our messages. Because a lot of times when we see talks, they seem to just venture around the same kind of idea, and we want to give people a complete toolkit of what they can do to manage their health, their life, their environment, everything around them.
That's amazing. So just going through the list here, can you guys, I'll call on you by name, make it a little bit easier. Can you kind of give a brief idea of what kind of different trauma that you have experienced that kind of pushed you down this road? Starting with Lisa.
Well, thanks for having me go first on that, because my trauma, well, let me back up. I had some trauma in my life, but how I started on the path that I'm on, which is basically creative communications, started out in childhood when I was playing games. I had a love for games, and I made everything that I did into a game. And then as I got older, I did have a brain tumor, which I overcame, and I healed faster because it was 3 months before my wedding that they told me I had to have brain surgery to remove the tumor. And I asked the doctor, hey, can I wait? Can I wait until after the wedding? He's like, no, you can't wait. You got to get surgery. So I was upset because I didn't want to be a bald bride. But anyway, I digress. What I ended up doing was playing these games in the hospital, and everything, like even planning the wedding, the details of the wedding, I turned into games. And that's what I really attribute to helping me heal faster. So that's kind of my backstory.
Wow. I don't blame you for not wanting to be a bald bride, though. That sounds really stressful. That in itself is trauma.
Yes.
Michaela, what is your story? What's your background?
Well, mine started from birth. I call it my 38 triple D. And believe me, it has nothing to do with physical appearance. It may be when pregnant. But what it is you take the 3 Ds. Mine first was lifelong disability of legal blindness, and then divorce at 26. And then I met the love of my life in 2005, not long after getting divorced. But then in 2017, he tragically, unexpectedly passed away. So by the age of 38, I can say I have either lived through or am still living through disability, divorce, and death by the age of 38. And it's allowed me to have an interesting journey of learning what it takes to not just survive, but thrive, or at least strive to, depending on what day we're talking about. No, I'm kidding. It's a little
I hear
different,
that.
but real authentic, right? It's not always the same every day, but so that's mine.
Wow. And Debbie, what's your background?
Mine is all in health. I was abandoned in the middle of the opiate crisis and told that no one would help me. And I was left to find solutions for myself at the time when I needed my medical professionals the most. I had actually handed my health over to them to be my advocate, and they decided they didn't want to advocate anymore. So I had to figure out a way to take care of my health. And laying in a hospital bed fighting for my life, I made a decision right then and there, once I was able coherent enough again to make a decision, that I would find solutions so that no one ever found themselves here again.
Wow. And Amy, what's your story?
Well, mine is largely health and family related also. At 19, I was diagnosed with a severe case of Crohn's disease, which actually was a source of struggle and conflict every single day. And yet I worked my way through college. I got an internship to teach high school English and journalism, and I was in the classroom every day for 33 years. So it was an amazing opportunity to be an inspiration to my students and them to me. And I also have what in the earlier days of what we called mental retardation. My sister in 1944 was born with Down syndrome, and that was a bit of a tragedy in our family, having society accept someone who was different and be kicked out of kindergarten because she was different and they didn't know how to deal with her. So through family circumstances, all these challenges, there's an emphasis on health and teaching, and those are my prime missions in life.
Wow. I have Crohn's disease myself, was diagnosed at 35. I can't imagine having to deal with that at the age of 19. What a rough road that had to be.
All of us speak with such enthusiasm in our voices and lightheartedness, and we're talking about trauma. But all these things, I'm sure in day-to-day struggles yourself, all of these make us so strong, and all of these empower us. So we're living the talk, and this is what we want to share with everybody, so they can wake up in the morning and feel the same energy and sisterhood and camaraderie with the rest of connecting with each other.
Oh, absolutely. This is so important. I mean, people need to find that hope. How did each of you find that hope? What was your journey for being able to find that kind of healing to be able to get to this point? Let's start with Debbie.
I met my endocannabinoid system, which is also referred to as the ECS, which is a lot simpler to say, which is a system we're all born with. And even being medically trained in the 70s, we didn't even know that system existed. So it's something brand new to me, and understanding that and learning how to use cannabinoid therapies to manage my pain, manage my lung health, many things that people most definitely wouldn't think of using cannabis for, opened up a whole new world about how to look at our health and how I need to help advocate for other people's health.
Wow. Michaela?
Mine is a 5-step process that a lot of it I learned earlier in life with the disability, but then I had to exercise it to get through the divorce. And then when my husband died, and I used daily to do what I have to do with being a solo mom, disabled, and going through life without a partner right now currently. I call it Finding Grace Through Grief in Life, and it's an acronym that stands for, gaining your grounding in grief, and redesign to daring to redefine and redirect your course in life, and then living to learn in abundance, and care, choosing clarity and care over chaos and confusion, and then being essentially equipped. So, and all of those could be 5 separate conversations, but it's basically when life doesn't give you your own roadmap, which it doesn't. I mean, good luck trying to find one. I've been searching for years and I haven't done it. And if you find one, please let me know, send it my way. I've created my own roadmap. There's a reason why I've often said, if you want it done right, you better do it. For the lack of better terms, your damn self.
Yes, there's so many things that are that way too. And we were talking before we jumped on about, our penchant for being on time. I think that kind of mentality, I think, is what helps us to get through a lot of the stuff that we've been through too.
Yeah,
It's not even necessarily being on time. It's taking ownership of the moment.
exactly. And I would say determination and persistence and tenacity and your mindset, and knowing that it's your choices at the end of the day, and it's your journey or your path or your quest in life is often shaped by the string of choices you put together, because if you made one set of choices, you'd go another direction. If you did another choice, it would take you a totally different direction. So
Yeah.
you can either
Yep.
define your circumstances, or like your life is either going to define it for you, or you can choose to say, nope, I'm going to determine this. I'm going to decide my own destiny and define it for myself.
Yeah. And Amy, what's been your path to recovery and healing?
Mine has been empathy. For without empathy as a path to joy, we're all in a little isolated box. It starts with communication. It starts with noticing the person next to you and sharing and honoring the people in our lives who have made an impact in our lives. When we do that out of gratitude, out of empathy, we have to communicate for that connectedness to occur. So I believe that by sharing with people how much they mean to me and writing it down and sharing with them, that we start a chain of endless joy, because everybody realizes how special they are, how everyone's life matters, and they can pay it forward then. And once they know that, we really are creating this endless legacy of joy. And it all starts from within. And that's what I realized. It comes from with me, not from external circumstances. And the hope is from that mindset that I had to deliver to myself, to my worthiness, so that I could go out and share.
That is amazing. Do you think your feeling of wanting to make everybody feel seen and recognized comes from your acknowledgement of having a sister with Down syndrome who probably occasionally felt like she wasn't seen very often when you guys were growing up?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I cried in school when I saw kids ridiculing or bullying, or, saying she's a retard or this or that, or even without my sister present, not even knowing her. So that sensitivity early on about how important our words are and how much we have to reach out to others. Even 10 words in my high school yearbook written by my favorite English teacher saying to Amy, in whom I often saw myself at 17, 10 words that are indelible, imprinted in my mind forever. So, when we see people with differences, or when we see people with promise, our acknowledgement of that is life changing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And Lisa, what about you?
Yes. Well, for me, I think the trajectory I was on changed when I woke up from the brain surgery and I was laying in my hospital bed. And I remember staring up at the ceilings, those blank tire ceilings. For anybody who's ever been in a hospital setting, you look up and a lot of them are stained with water, but it's the way you look at them. You could look at it as if it's a blank canvas, and you have every day as a gift, or you can look at it as, oh, I'm in this hospital bed and it's going to take me a long time to get better. So I chose to look at it in a positive way. And that's where I vowed to make play. Pretty much, I wake up and I play every day. I get a new opportunity to play. I get a new opportunity at life. But more importantly, I get that opportunity to be playful and creative, because that really opens us up to improved communication, looking at things with a fresh perspective. And then that also eventually leads to stronger relationships and outcomes. So, play for me is the most important thing to think about every moment I wake up, besides being grateful I'm alive.
So next I'm going to go into, oh, there's an echo. Next, I'm going to go into who inspires you the most and why did you pick this person as your inspiration? I'm going to start with Michaela this time.
Wow. I don't. That's a hard question, actually, for me. I don't know. inspiration is a funny thing as a writer because that's my main predominant work background as I'm an author. I do want to do other things, but it's because of my writing. I find you can find inspiration in anything and everything. And I know for someone who writes, I get asked a lot of times what inspires my writing. And I really have to say it can come from one book I wrote because I was in the ocean with my kids playing, like Lisa says, or a lot of my work came from a guilty pleasure of I watched Sex in the City. And so I saw what the main character, Carrie Bradshaw, Sarah Jessica Parker character, what she did. I thought, wait a minute, if she can do that, then I can do it on mine. So I don't know if I have certain people that inspire me, but I do see the value that inspiration can come from anywhere and that it can create creativity from anything. And I think it's pretty amazing how our minds work and what inspires us and what causes that to create a spark in us that makes us want to put things out into the world. I'm sure there's a list of people that I respect or admire. I'm a history person, so there's a lot of conversations I wish I could go back in time and have with certain people. I have my own, I guess, historical Facebook list I would like to be on, but that's time travel. But anyway, I don't know. And there's some religious people because I'm faith-based, but so it's probably a long list depending on what you're talking about. I don't know if that really answers your question or not, but
No, that's actually a pretty good answer. You draw inspiration from all around you. As a fellow writer, I can absolutely identify with that. Debbie.
I love this question, and I've become very playful. My inspiration actually comes from a family member that I really never knew, but her maiden name was Macmillan. And my family instilled in me how lucky I was to be a Macmillan because I had all these health issues. My grandmother was born with a hereditary thalassemia minor condition. It's a blood disorder. She passed it on to me. I didn't know it for many years, but every time something strange in my health would show up, my parents would refer to me and say, "But you're a Macmillan." And they made me proud to be that. And then I started incorporating play with Alice in Wonderland and following the white rabbit down the rabbit hole, trying to find answers for some things in my family's medical history. And then the Princess and the Pea showed up, and then Goldilocks showed up, and then Humpty Dumpty showed up. And so I did entertain play from a very early age about looking at health and how to explain what is going on. And I think it's an important message for us to share with everyone that those nursery rhymes and kids' stories have really good outcomes or a message that we can share with the world. So mine, again, is not necessarily one person. I guess I would attribute it to my family because my parents were smart enough, and I don't know that they calculated it, but to empower me with just that I was a Macmillan and she had health issues, and I should use that as a badge of honor.
may
That
I
is
interject
super
something
cool.
here that Amanda might find interesting based off of what you said, Debbie?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, in our group, as we've been working together for quite some time now, we all kind of have like character nicknames. Like Lisa's Miss Pac-Man, and Amy's Mary Poppins, and Debbie is Alice, and I'm now Ariel. So we have our own little like things that we joke about that feel like are us, but so it's just a funny thing about what Debbie was saying. That's who we are in our group privately.
That's awesome. Excuse me. So speaking of Mary Poppins, I'm going to have you go next.
Okay. Well, I just folded up my umbrella. It's raining here in Florida. So I just landed. The person was absolutely my sister Joyce. Joycey, aptly named. She was the embodiment of joy, truly. She was 3.5 years older than I. And Joycey was supposed to not live beyond her teens, for sure. And parents in those days of challenged children, they had a group policy for their funerals. I mean, it was incredible.
Oh,
And it was just a fact of life. There was no hope. And yet my sister was fearless. She didn't see herself as different. She never saw anyone else as different. Her empathy and the empathy shown towards her and the acceptance and love from family and from the caregivers who helped her through her life was only coming from a place of love. So it was so easy to see my sister extend her hand to strangers in an elevator and say, "Hi, I'm Joyce. I'm Amy's sister." And people would just burst into a smile. It's so easy, she taught me. And now, how can I be so self-conscious about trying to put my face up on Facebook when my sister was so out there? And that is what it's all about. We can so innocently create joy just with a smile. She was my inspiration, so innocent to knowing her own power. And Joycey passed at 73 years old. So
Wow.
there was a mission and a reason for her to be empathetic, an angel of joy, being an inspiration and helping her baby sister become a woman with an important message to share.
Wow, what an incredible person she was. 70s? She died in her 70s? Oh my gosh, it just blows my mind, Amy. I mean,
I know. And I want to say there's a movie being made right now. I read about it the other day, and it's a feature-length movie that stars an actor who was born with Down syndrome, and the whole movie is about the joys of Down children. And there was a startling statistic that 70% of pregnancies are terminated with Down children.
oh,
And this movie is a testament, and so is my life, to the joy that these human beings bring us.
my goodness, that's incredible. Lisa, who's your inspiration?
Well, I would like to say it's Mary Poppins, because how am I supposed to follow that, Amy?
I did that to you, Manus.
Love you, Miss Pac-Man.
But I will say it has to go to my almost 5-year-old daughter. She's going to be 5 soon, and she was a miracle to be born. And I named her Mira because it's short for miracle. And I had her when I was in my 40s, and I had a subchorionic hemorrhage when I was 13 weeks. So I almost lost her. The doctors didn't know from week to week if she was going to survive, and I had to be on bed rest for the remainder of my pregnancy. But she's here, and each day she reminds me constantly what a gift she is and what a miracle she is. And she reminds me, and all children do this, you look at them and they just have a sense of wonder, a sense of how creative they can be. Everything new excites them, and she represents play. So I love getting to play with her every night when she comes back from daycare, and just spending that time with her. And she was also born on the 13th. There's a whole thing with 13s, and we can make a game out of 13. So like at 13 weeks, I had this hemorrhage. She was born on the 13th. My house number is 13. And so it goes. At 8:13 in the morning, she was born. There's a whole theme with like 13s. And technically I should go gamble with 13 now that I'm saying all this, but yes. So it's her, and she's truly my inspiration and the reason why I do what I do today.
That's awesome.
Well, Lisa, you should make a big to-do out of her 13th birthday when it comes in like 9 or 8 years.
Yes, I should. It's a good plan, Michaela.
Yeah, absolutely. 15 años, right? So I'm going to go backwards now through the list, starting with Amy. And I'm gonna kind of spin things off in kind of an unusual direction for my show. What is your best memory with these other 3 ladies?
My best memory of Joycey was watching her debark, coming off a cruise ship with her lovely partner, her roommate, Diane. They had just been on the 3rd cruise that they ever took with their group home and their staff. And there were a lot of people there who had long faces, and they were trotting along, and they looked like they'd been eating for 7 days. and they were just kind of lifeless. And Joycey and Diane were just walking, animated and straight and vibrant and looking all around and full of smiles. And I just said to myself, wow, what an amazing portrait of the contrast of seeing this beautiful human being have a special trip that she earned, by the way, with little little jobs that she was supervised at doing, like being a tray girl at Taco Bell and things like that. And
Oh,
how rich her life was. And in that moment, and by the way, I've never been on a cruise. Part of it was I was afraid to travel because I was so debilitated from the autoimmune, issues with Crohn's. So I didn't travel. But Joycey was out there seeing and being in the world, heard. And, now that I think of it right in this moment, I'm having an aha moment. She was an ambassador for her whole population. She truly was. And she even went to sea to get the message out. So that moment in particular stands out in my mind. There's no impossible. And we're all about making the impossible or seeming impossible possible. And she did with beauty and grace.
oh, that's so cool. She's so awesome. I haven't even met her, and I love her.
Well, her life mattered. And when we all, with all the gifts and all the intellect and all the privileges that we are granted, once we know our life matters, we could be as powerful as she.
Yes. And how long has she been gone now?
She passed in 2017.
Wow. A few years. I miss her for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. She's living with us so vibrantly every single day.
Oh, it's beautiful. So what's your favorite memory with Lisa and Michaela and Debbie?
I can't say I have any one special memory. Right now it becomes this podcast with you, Amanda, because I'm learning all the time. We've been interacting about a year, but every time we talk, I feel more galvanized to these compatriots, these sisters. I learned so much new about each of them, even just now, that every moment becomes the best moment because it just confirms and it just validates and it just inspires and infuses and just makes every minute of our collaboration that much more, putting it up to next level. Your having us is just a joy, and it's such a gift. So when you have opportunity like this to have your voice heard, it just gets better and better. So right now, this moment right now is my best with the girls.
No, that's awesome. Debbie, what was your nickname again?
I'm Alice.
Alice, that's right. Debbie, what is your favorite memory with the other three?
Oh my gosh, there's so many memories I've had and made with each one of these women as a group and individually. But I have to say that when we were put into this cohort and there was a lot larger number of us that were put into this group, but there were 3 of us that showed up consistently every day. And that was Michaela, Lisa, and I. Then all of a sudden, little Miss Mary Poppins just ended up in our cohort somehow. And
she popped in, Debbie. That's what
she popped in. Yeah, for sure. She popped in. And we just thought that somebody new was added to our group. She wasn't even supposed to be there, come to find out. She was not even invited, but she just happened to click on a link to a Zoom call, and we all thought she was supposed to be there. So we just embraced her, brought her in. And the one thing I can say is all 4 of us showed up regularly. Nobody else did. And so I realized at that moment we were all connected in a way that we should be working together.
That's cool.
It was the beginning of Echo, whether we realized it or not at the time.
Yeah. Michaela, what's your favorite memory?
I think we've had so many. And for me, I personally thrive off of creative energy and intellectual conversation. So for me, I think it's the idea of the quest that we're on, seeking out what we're trying to achieve and having these aha moments of discovery about each other, collectively, individually, and knowing what we're going to be able to create because we know what we have is good. and that it's valuable, and we need to put it into the universe and the world to help empower people to have hope and opportunity through conversation. And so it's as we're continually evolving this quest and this mission and this vision and our journey that I think is what makes it so good and what I enjoy about all of them, and learning about each other and our unique personalities, which I think is quite obvious at this point. But it's also that it works well together. We're unique, but yet we can come together and make something magical and amazing out of it. And seeing how that's developing and evolving is just what makes it so fun and great, I think.
That's awesome. And Lisa, what's your favorite?
Well, I would like to echo what everyone else is saying. Get that? I used echo there because it's so true. I think for me, the most important thing is that hasn't been mentioned yet. I'm going to do what hasn't been mentioned yet instead of repeating what everyone else is saying, is that we've never met in person yet. And I feel like we have a relationship of people that have been meeting in person, if that makes any sense. Like that's the quality of the relationship that the four of us have at this point, and we've just been meeting on Zoom. So it feels like you're with that person, you know them, and we are going to meet each other in person in a couple months, but it's probably going to be like you've known them for 20 years by then, if that makes any sense. So that's what I think. It's a very special relationship, and I can't pinpoint any moment. Although I still do chuckle over when Amy popped in by accident, and we were texting each other, the three of us, like, who's this lady? Like, we don't know where she came from. And Amy wasn't on the text thread yet. And then we realized, like, oh, you're a happy accident. So Amy's the happy accident, but we love her. So there you go.
Honestly, literally should be called Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins.
Well, we've established, Amy, how you got your nickname. Debbie, how did you get the nickname of Alice?
Alice has just been a part of my life forever. I feel like I was born into a family with a lot of medical conditions and never fully understood. And I was always a very curious little girl and always wanted to understand why or how things work. And so I always was one of these people following many different paths, many different trails, trying to figure out answers. And sometimes I found myself going down the rabbit hole with a not understanding anything and feeling lost. But that's where the beauty of the story comes in, because it becomes where I don't feel like I live in a box. I'm very open and exploratory and willing to, learn in many different ways. And so I think that Alice has just been a part of me since I was a little girl.
I have to know about the nickname Pac-Man. Lisa?
When these ladies first met me, I was practicing a future TEDx talk, and I had a story about how, because it was about gamification and play and that kind of stuff. And I talked about how I wanted Miss Pac-Man for Christmas one year, and the story about how I got Miss Pac-Man. So I think that's where the name came in. It was my favorite game as a kid, and I still like to play it and then I'll send them pictures of, like, if I'm in different places. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was in a pizza place and they had a Miss Pac-Man machine, and I was like, yes, I get to play. So you can still find me playing that game when kids are supposed to be playing it. Like I'll give some kids some money to leave so I can play those kind of things.
Oh my gosh. And Michaela, does Ariel have something to do with your red hair?
Yeah, that's part of it. And see, I was the odd one out. Like all these names came up in like the flow of conversation. Like it just made sense. Like it was a good fit. And we were like, we got to come up with one for Michaela. What is Michaela going to be? And then we were working. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag, ladies. We're working on a book right now. Imagine that, me, the author, deciding we need to work on a book. It's what I do when I'm not doing it. I'm thinking about it. But we were talking about the characters that weave into our stories, like Debbie was saying with her Humpty Dumpty and Goldilocks and Princess and the Pea and Alice in Wonderland. And so I was thinking through the characters that I remember thinking about as a kid, or, with my kids, because, we all have to watch the movies a million times over, whether we want to or not, with our kids. And like, oh my God, gouge my eyes out if I have to watch this one more time, but we won't tell them that. And so I remember always loving Ariel because, one, yes, I'm a redhead and you can't see me, but I do have blue eyes like she does. And all girls are princesses. And I've always loved the water. I'm actually a Scorpio, so I very much am an ocean girl. So I've just always thought, I wish I could be Ariel and be a mermaid and be in the ocean forever. But so I told the lady the other day that I have an announcement. I finally decided I should be Ariel. So I dubbed myself Ariel. So we've all agreed I'm Ariel.
Oh, I love it. Ariel was the one that made it okay to be a redhead when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So how did Echo come to be? I understand that you guys were all in this group and you were all kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of forced to communicate about what it is that you wanted to do, but specifically empowering conversations of hope and opportunity.
I'm
And I
going to
totally
take that one.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Debbie and I were talking, and Debbie and I were just chatting on a call, and she's like, I think we really need to do this, Michaela. I'm like, okay, I'm game. Let's play. Let's talk this through. What would it look like? And she was telling me about her effective cannabis. I forget the other two words, Debbie. I'm sorry. But the point is, it was still the same letters. It still represented echo. I was like, that's really cool. I like that. Because echo in of itself means you're echoing out, you're spreading, you're rippling, you're reverberating out into the world, your message and your story. And we all individually have our own voices, our own stories, and our own messages and our own truth that work well, but then they come together collectively and still could be couched around this theme. And I'm like, let's see what we can do with those letters that represent the action of echoing out, but still could break down what we want to do in our mission and our vision. So that's how I started playing with the words. I said, what would be E? It's like empowering, but empowering what? Okay, healing, hope, whatever. We started playing with it. Empowering conversations, like, because this is about conversing and starting a dialogue and getting the message out, because that's how we communicate. And then we said, okay, empowering conversation around what? Healing, hope, whatever. And we stuck with hope. And then we said the opportunity to take this information in. And so we were just kind of like, I don't want to say jammed like musicians, but I guess like thriving off of intellectual thought and flow and creativity and inspiration. And so she and I were talking and we decided we liked it. So we're like, okay, let's go tell Lisa and Amy and see if we can get a consensus. So, I mean, Debbie, you can add to that story, but that's where I feel like that's how we came up with it in that conversation.
That is how we came up with it. But I think the important piece for me here is that we have messages that need to be reverberated around the world. And it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. Everybody can find something in all of our messages to take and put in place in their lives. And it's all about empowering someone else. It's not about, you are your own unique individual and you need to have the tools to make sure that you're true to yourself. And that's the message that we're echoing.
That's very cool. I'm really glad you guys are out there doing what it is that you're doing. You really are giving hope to people that otherwise don't see any avenue. So when people want to know more about you guys, if they want to hire you to do public speaking, if they want to look into this mysterious book that you're planning on writing, where do they go to learn more information about you guys?
We have an email, we have a website, echotalks.org. You can find out all the information from us there. You can look at our social media, which is Echo Talks Summit on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook.
We are in the process of growing and establishing and adding to it, though, right now. Would you agree, Debbie?
Yes, we're just in the beginning stages of putting our social media campaign together. We're also putting together, if you look at our social media, there's a link so that you can sign up to be notified when we have our first virtual event so that you can come and hear what we have to share. And so, this is just all starting to roll out, and we're so thankful that you had us here to share this message.
Oh, absolutely. I see big things in the future for you four. I mean, you have a very powerful message, and I love this joy that you all exude. I think Joyce is kind of spreading her love around between all four of you there, Amy.
Certainly is. She certainly is.
Yeah. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with everything that you guys are doing, and I'm excited for your future. I want to see more. I want to hear more. When you do come out with your book, let me know. I will gladly have you back on my podcast again. But
We
do
will
you
take you up on it.
do you have any portion of your writing that you would like to share at all?
I don't know if they would, what the group would feel, because we've not entertained this before, so we're doing this on the spot. We could send you a sample of something, and we could decide which one, and then we'll send it to, if they're all in agreement.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
That's good.
I love it. Quick agreement here. Just even if I'm just putting you on the spot there. Ladies, it has been an absolute pleasure and privilege to have you with me today. I am overjoyed that you were all able to jump into the call and just to hang out with me for a little while today.
Yeah.
And this is a big deal for me. This is the most people I've ever had at one time on my podcast. And you guys are amazing.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. It was fun.
Encouraging words, and we're grateful to do it. And I don't know about the group, but I got into podcasting, at least being on podcasts, a while ago, and it's one of my favorite things I do, because like I said, I thrive off of intellectual thought and conversation, and so I love it, and I think it creates opportunities that wouldn't be able to happen otherwise. So I'm grateful for and honored that you would allow us to do this for your audience, and y'all can echo or say what y'all want regarding that or not.
I would like to just add something that I think, Amanda, you'll find amazing and contributing to our uniqueness. Because this is a podcast and we don't have the ability to see each other, I'd like to share with you that we represent 235 years on this earth of experience and journeying. And we span 3 decades, from 45 years old to 75. Mary Poppins is 75. And all this energy has come together through the decades, through the internet, through our deepest heartfelt experiences and triumphs and survivorship, that we have the wonderful grace to even be here all together in this miracle moment. So I just wanted you to know that you can't see us, but this is who we are.
Drop the mic, Amy. I can't say anything back to that. So.
Well, I want to say one final thing for me anyway, and I want to just say that everybody is important and everybody matters. And that is what our message is here to share. And we thank you, Amanda, for having us here to be able to provide that message and hopefully show someone today that their life is important and that we see they matter.
Ladies, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate
Thank you for
every single
having
one
us.
of you.
Yes.
Well,
guys
I
are
think
awesome.
we'll definitely still be in touch and be connected soon. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks,
Cool.
Amanda. Have a great rest of your day.
Have a good one,
Thank
y'all.
you. You too.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Welcome back to Season 3 of the podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Blackwood. As many of you know, I wrote my autobiography as a survivor of human trafficking called Custom Justice. But if you didn't know, you do now. Keeping in line with that, this entire season has been focused on interviewing people who did or plan to write about their own experiences as trauma survivors and how they overcame their past. If that sounds like you, reach out. We can talk about having you on the show, too. As much as we all hate commercials, they are a necessary evil these days. This is what keeps the show on the air. You can also show support by purchasing one of my mini books or donating through PayPal. You can find the links to either option in the podcast description. As always, a portion of the proceeds do go to local organizations that help fight human trafficking.